Don't bet silly, bet savvy. Join Coral's Bet and Get Club and get a free £5 bet every Sunday. The smart money's on Coral.
Hello and welcome to the Racing Post Cricket World Cup show. I'm James Milton. I'm joined by my Racing Post colleagues Liam Flynn and Joe Champion, and by Coral's Harry Aikenhead. And we're hoping to be reviewing the first semi-final between India and New Zealand on this show. The Mancunian weather has put pay to that, and as we speak, actually, India are in a real hole at around 40 for 4, chasing 240 to win that game. So the lads are very shrewd cricket betting brains here, but even they can't review a game that's still going on. So instead, we're going to be looking ahead to England versus Australia at Edgbaston. Now, this is an Ashes summer, and this is the first of several huge clashes between the old rivals, and it's going to be absolutely fascinating. I mean, Harry, I'll turn to you first. You know, England had their wobble in the group stage, but having come out, won those two big games against India and New Zealand, our punters back behind Owen Morgan's men.
Yeah, definitely. England 4-6 for this game, and Australia 6-5. So England the firm favourites, and they have been by far the most popular and bet in the match. It's interesting, if you just took the 9 games that the two sides played in the tournament stage, you might say Australia had the better form carrying through. But as you say, the momentum for England meant that very much people are getting back on side. Australia, a few injury worries, and they did obviously lose to South Africa in their last game. So England very much the side to be on at the moment for the punters. Yeah,
I mean, Liam, just looking back at the league stage of the tournament, I mean, Australia impressed plenty of people and seemed to look a better balanced side as the stage went on, before, of course, that important defeat to South Africa in their last game.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that could play quite a key role really in this game, because it's quite easy to say at the end of the group stage that a game against South Africa, for example, the reason Australia lost that was because it didn't mean anything, when in actual fact it did, because obviously winning that game would have meant they played New Zealand. Obviously now New Zealand doing a job against India, but before that you would have said that they would have preferred obviously to play New Zealand in the semi-finals than England. And I think, yeah, looking at the prices in this game, it's at first glance, as you say, I mean, Australia probably look a little bit big when you take into account the form, but I just think that the way this game is set up now, it is certainly in England's favour. I mean, obviously, firstly, we said the other day that they'd rather play them at Edgbaston than at Lords, where Australia completely undid them. Obviously, Jason Roy back in the side, having scored 60, 66 in those final 2 group games, and ultimately sort of played the role of the aggressor, getting the best out of Johnny Bairstow, who put on unbeaten back-to-back centuries. And yeah, just generally, I think you also look at the balance of that Australia squad now. The likes of Peter Handscomb and Matthew Wade probably likely to come into that team, and although both of those players have been in pretty good nick in one-day internationals generally, it's a huge ask to come into what is far from a world-class middle order and perform under such pressure circumstances. So I think there could be more reliance than we've seen throughout the tournament on Warner and Finch to get the runs from Australia, and England don't have to worry about that. They've been in a good situation all tournament, in a sense where if their key players aren't firing, then others can compensate for that, whereas Australia might not have that luxury with the players they've got.
Yeah, I mean, Usman Khawaja ruled out the tournament. I've always thought he was quite an underrated player. He opened the batting when Warner was still suspended, did really well there, and they kind of move him up and down the order. I think he's a really talented player, and so that's a blow for them. I mean, Joe, what you would say about England's league campaign, that the 3 games they lost, they were chasing in all 3 of those. And actually, I think 16 of the last 20 games in the league stage were won by the team batting first. So, the toss is going to be key, isn't it?
Yeah, I suspect so. We talked about England's chasing before and how they have had problems with it. They weren't dreadful against Pakistan. Pakistan put a lot of runs on the board. England actually bowled poorly in that game.
They scored 2 centuries, didn't
they?
Yeah,
exactly. I mean, you don't see that very often. And but yeah, Australia undid them with some great bowling, and Sri Lanka was really the one that they should have won, and that put them in all sorts of trouble. But now they've rallied. Jason Roy coming back has made a huge difference, and to beat India and New Zealand, and they beat New Zealand comprehensively as well to confirm their passage. That was quite a good effort, really, and they come into the last 4 with a bit of confidence now, when perhaps a couple of weeks ago we couldn't say that about England. We've mentioned how important as well that they're playing at Edgbaston. I'd much rather play Australia at Edgbaston in the semi-final than at Lords in a final, because You know, Australia, 6 out of their last 7 matches they've won at Lords against England, whereas Edgbaston, they haven't won there against England since 1993. They haven't won there at all since 1993. 1999, they did, of course, draw with South Africa in the semi-finals, and that felt like a win for them. But, aside from that, you know, much rather be playing them now than in 4 days' time.
And they were very good against New Zealand at Lords as well in that.
Very much so, yeah.
Game. Yeah, so it's been amazing how quickly things have changed just with a couple of games in that league stage. But the boys are pretty positive about England after those wins against India and New Zealand, and Australia signing off with a defeat in the league stage. We're going to have a short break and then we'll come back to get all the best bets from the boys for this huge semi-final clash.
Don't bet silly, bet savvy. Join Coral's Bet and Get Club and get a free £5 bet every Sunday. The smart money's on Coral.
Hi, welcome back to the Racing Post Cricket World Cup show. I'm James Milton with my colleagues Liam Flynn and Joe Champion and Coral's Harry Aitkenhead, and we're going to talk about the top tips from the boys for the semi-final clash between England and Australia at Edgbaston on Thursday. We still don't know who the winners will face in the final because that first semi was held over due to the rain. India and New Zealand slugging it out at the moment. But Harry, England favourites for this game, and you know we might not have expected that a couple of weeks ago.
No, absolutely not. It's funny to look back from last summer as well, when obviously we beat Australia so convincingly 5-0, and you'd have thought if you're pricing up those matches towards the end of that series, we'd have been kind of 1-2 going into the match, and all of a sudden we had the troubles we did. We are still odds on England, I should say, 4-6 to win this game. And the betting for the top bat for each team is very much reflected that those top orders have been dominating. You look at England, we've got Root 3-1, Bairstow 3-1, and Roy 100-30, who have all scored hundreds in this or big runs in this tournament. And on the other side for Australia, Warner 11-4, Finch 3-1, and Smith 7-2. There then is quite a big gap. The question marks about backing the lower down players have been they haven't actually got in that much at times. Butler 7-1, Hanscom 7-1, Maxwell 8-1. You never know how the games might pan out, so there could be some value there if they lose a few early wickets either side. But punters definitely wanting to be on those top 3 in each side, and particularly popular Bairstow and Roy.
Yeah. I mean those 2 opening pairs, obviously when Jason Roy's been fit, have been absolutely phenomenal. I'm just looking at Coral going 6-4. That the 4 openers between them score 200 or more runs, which usually you'd think that looks a bit skinny, but you look at their records. I mean, Warner and Finch have got 5 centuries and 6 50s between them in this tournament. Bairstow obviously looking for a third straight ton, and Jason Roy only had 5 innings due to injury, but he's made 3 50s and 150 odd against Bangladesh.
If one of them gets a big 100, then you can almost just chip in from the rest. We've got 12-1 that they all score 50, 4 openers, and 7-1 that they all hit a 6. Which might tempt some people in as well. Yeah,
very interesting stuff. Liam, are you siding with the openers in this market, or can you see any value further down?
I'm not actually. I mean, I think the key with England this tournament has been their depth in batting, obviously. But one player to me has always looked capable of sort of putting in match-winning performances lower down the order, and I think that's Ben Stokes. Scores of 89 and 79 against sort of big guns in Australia and India. Both of those were sort of pressure cooker environments, and then as was his unbeaten 82 against Sri Lanka, where he nearly won that game single-handedly had it not been for Mark Wood's sort of late waft. I mean, he was just terrific in that, and I think. Given the quality of Australia's new ball attack, I know we keep sort of raving about Roy and Bairstow, but I could quite easily see an early wicket falling, and as Harry says, that then obviously opens the door for sort of players lower down the order to top score. Not necessarily maybe looking at him to be top run scorer. I think another bet might be for actually backing Ben Stokes to be man of the match. I mean, he's got 381 runs in this tournament. But he's also got 7 wickets to his name as well, and he's always a danger with the ball in those middle overs. No, exactly. I mean, from that moment of that amazing catch in the tournament curtain raiser, we've just seen an absolutely terrific performance from him, and I think that looks like a good bet.
Yeah, I was looking at Stokes' runs line actually, 28.5, which is the same as kind of Butler and even Alex Carey, who's been a real hit down the order for Australia. But I mean, Stokes has actually been really consistent for England in ODIs. Averaging the last 4 years 49, 62, 45, 53, and as Liam mentioned, he's been scoring runs in difficult situations. You know, he's not a flat track bully, and yeah, I've been really impressed by him here. If England do find themselves in a bit of bother, you know, you bank on him bailing them out. Joe, any bets that you fancy?
Yeah, we've kind of stolen my thunder here for top England run scorer. I've got Ben Stokes written down at 8-1. One thing I will add is that he scored 102 not out against Australia on this ground 2 years ago as well. So yeah, Ben Stokes is a bet, but I can't really add what Liam's already said. But yeah, look at other top batsmen. I mean, looking at Australia, I've looked at David Warner's record, and he scored a 50 against England at Lords, but he's not. You know, he only averages 33 against England compared to a career average of 46. And so I was looking more at Aaron Finch, and now he's failed in his last 2 matches, but Australia are already through by then. Before that, he scored 82, 152, 53, and 100 versus England. And unlike Warner, he's got a great average against England. He averages 52.2, so he's definitely an alternative to Warner in the top Australian run scorer market. Yeah,
Finch has looked very, very good in this tournament. And another bet I briefly touched on earlier, Alex Carey's runs line, I think is just gone up a little too high for my liking now. I mean, I think he'll probably come in at number 7, 28.5. You know, that's the same line as Joss Buttler and Ben Stokes, as I mentioned. I think at the start of the tournament, you know, he'd have been nowhere near that. He's batted brilliantly, but you know, he's not even guaranteed to face enough balls to get up there. So that would be one to consider for me. Harry, any other specials that you'd like to dangle?
Yeah, I was actually going to slightly disagree with you there. I think, as you say, Alex Carey has batted brilliantly. The runs line, as you know, might not get in. I did pick out a couple based on him. He's 2-1 to hit 6, which even if he comes in down the order with 10, 12 balls to go, he's shown he's got that capability. And Edgbaston has had quite short boundaries, as we saw Kohli moaning about earlier in the tournament. And then 5-2 that he hits a 6 and takes a catch. Which might appeal to people. And I thought maybe Maxwell 8-1 to top bat if there's early wickets. He hasn't really hit the heights, but we've seen him play a few cameos, you know, 30 off 15 balls, I think, against India at the Oval. I think he's got one in his locker, big game player.
Yeah, he played
some
brilliant innings when they won in Pakistan.
Yeah, there could be some value there, but obviously it is dependent on early wickets.
Yeah, Harry mentioned earlier England beating Australia 5-0 last year in England. They also won 4-1 in Australia at the start of last year, but this is such a different Australia side now. I think one guy we've got to mention is Mitchell Starc. I mean, Liam, would you have him? Obviously, in terms of wickets, he's been the bowler of the tournament by some way, and he's the obvious favourite to cause most damage to England.
Yeah, absolutely. That was one of the other bets I had actually. I think Starc top Australia wicket taker about 2-1 just looks really good value to me, to be honest. I mean, I think Starc versus Roy has the makings of a fascinating contest, and that could even go as far as determining the game. In fairness, but you know, he's just been an absolute cut above the rest of the bowlers in this tournament. 24 wickets, so dangerous with that new ball. I mean, some of the deliveries we've seen from him in this tournament have just bordered on unplayable. Took 4 for 43 in that match at Lords against England. And although conditions will obviously differ to that, to those at Lords, I think he can still take the most scalps for Australia. So that would be my top Australia wicket taker tip. I think the last bet I like the look of, I think, is a special Chris Woakes to take 2 or more wickets, about 5-4. I thought he was England's best bowler against Australia at Lords, at figures of 2 for 46, dislodged Steve Smith in that game. And he also bowled superbly at Edgbaston against India with figures of 2 for 58, and of course remarkable 3 maidens in that spell as well. And I just think the way that it's been playing there, it could suit a seamer like Woakes, who likes to move it around a bit. He's not all about sort of raw pace like Archer and Wood are necessarily. So I think 2 or more wickets looks like quite a good bet there.
Yeah, Chris Woakes, the hometown hero at Edgbaston. I mean, Joe, we've spoken at length about how good these two opening pairs are in batting terms, but you know, we've got to mention that the new ball battle as well, Starc and Pat Cummins versus Woakes and Jofra Archer. I mean, the first 10 overs or so is going to be crucial, isn't it, both innings?
Yeah, very much so. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens actually, because I think that could be the game there and then. Really, if England get off to a good start, they'll probably want to bat first anyway. So if they win the toss and bat, and then suddenly they're 100 off of 12, 13 overs, then they're really, really ahead. And then, that could just determine absolutely everything in terms of how this game goes. I was looking at top bowlers, and Starc is a bit skinny for me at 2-1, but I don't want to take him on.
Yeah.
and he was the man that really did the damage at Lords. I know Berendorf got a fifer, but Stark was there at the top of the order, causing problems. And so I think that 2-to-1's about the right price. Looking at England, I was just looking at Liam Plunkett maybe, because he's a bit of an unsung hero of this England attack, and he's been in and out of the side, but they won't go with 2 spinners here, I wouldn't have thought. So Plunkett should play, and he's taken 8 wickets at 23 in this tournament, which is a decent return, and an economy rate of less than 5. So he puts pressure on the batsman, and he took 3 for 55 on this ground against India as well, which was his best performance in the tournament. And seamers have played their part here at Edgbaston. I think Mustafizur, Bumrah, Mohammad Shami, Morris, Lockie Ferguson, they've all taken 3+ wickets. So, I think that the seamers should go well here, and Plunkett at 4-to-1, bit of value to be top England wicket taker.
He's been an amazingly prolific wicket taker for England in one-day cricket over the past since the last World Cup really, 11 to 8 for him to take 2 or more wickets. I noted down as well. I do like the look of that, Liam Plunkett. Right, lads, I'm going to turn to you now for your best bets of this semi-final. I don't want to hear Ben Stokes' name all through the card, but see what have we got? Harry, you first.
Yeah, tempted by a few, and Stark to take 3 or more wickets at 7-4. Looks a great price. He's been used really well at the right time by Finch. So I think I'll stick with that. I think it's hard to see him not taking a couple, and the times he's been bowling at the top and then in the middle and at the end, kind of 2-3 over burst, could well have too much for a few England batsmen at the end. So Stark 3 or more wickets at 7-4.
And England will continue to go hard at him.
Absolutely.
Don't treat any bowlers with respect. So Liam, what's your best bet?
Yeah, also going with Stark, top Australia wicket taker.
Joe?
Already mentioned by yourself, Ben Stokes over 28.5 runs. I just think the Australian bowling attack is too good, and he's going to gain at some stage.
Love it. I'm going to go for that. Liam Plunkett 11 to 8 to take 2 or more wickets, as Joe mentioned, took 3 in the win over India against Edgbaston, took 4 against the Aussies in the warm-up defeat, and he's a bit of an unsung hero for England, but I think he could have a major impact. Right, join us again, weather permitting, on Friday, when hopefully we will know the World Cup finalists, and we'll be looking ahead to Sunday's showpiece occasion at Lords.
Don't bet silly, bet savvy. Join Coral's Bet and Get Club and get a free £5 bet every Sunday. The smart money's on Coral.